photography, both passions of mine. I've been into music probably longer than I have photography, but they're both creative pastimes. I enjoy both of them equally, really. With the camera, I get out in the landscape. I can create pictures of landscapes and architecture and all kinds of stuff. But equally with the guitar or a keyboard, I can sit down and just create some tunes, and I'm kind of happy. I'm one of those people that unless I'm creating something, I'm not happy. So both give me the chance to do that. So today I've got the my 4x5 setup. I've got a guitar and a ball of string. So today's all about shallow depth of field. It's a still life shoot. I'm going to be shooting the guitar and also this ball of string. They're not related, I just like this ball of string that I've got here. It's all about kind of textures and patterns, and also the effect that I can get with a shallow depth of field. Now, if you've noticed in the background here, my 4x5 setup, I've got my bellows extended on the baseboard as far as it will go. That gives me the chance to sort of focus really closely, nice shallow depth of field, and I can create that effect where it pinpoints the focus on one particular area, and everything around the area gets thrown out of focus, but then focuses your eye on that point. So I'm going to get set up. I'm using HP5 400 black and white films. Very simple shoot, very simple setup. I'll go through what I've got here in terms of bits and pieces that I use, and yeah, let's get set up. So first and foremost, the subject itself, the guitar. Background wise, very plain and simple. This is our coffee table at home. It's very neutral colour. It's very plain. There's nothing to detract from the main subject, which is the guitar. The composition wise, I've got the guitar going diagonally across the frame. My focus point is up the fretboard, so everything else behind it is out of focus. Everything ahead of it is out of focus as well, so it pinpoints your eye onto that main part of the fretboard. And with the wide aperture, it gives you that nice effect, that nice shallow depth of field, and draws your eye right to that point of the picture. And it's all about the texture and the shapes and patterns. And in terms of bits and pieces, I've got my loop. Because it's critical focusing, I've got to use this I use this all the time, but this comes in very handy when you're shooting this type of stuff with shallow depth of field. I can sort of pinpoint the focusing on the ground glass screen with my loop, and make sure that I've got the point that I want in focus nice and sharp on there before I start to load up the film and make sure everything's locked down. My other accessory is a blaster light reflector. This is basically silver on one side, white on the other. Very small, but it's very handy as well. The sunlight at the moment is off to my left hand side coming through the front room window. With direct sunlight, it's a bit too harsh for this kind of photography. So what I've done is pulled the blind down, so it's nicely diffused light now. And with this reflector, I can bounce that available light back into the shadows and fill them out. Make it nice and even light then. In terms of focusing, my focusing point is here, so everything ahead of that and behind it is thrown out of focus. But with the large format set as it is, with the bellows extended, you've got very shallow depth of field, so it's critical to kind of get this focusing right. This is why I'm using my loop and obviously my dark cloth as well to get that pinpoint focus. With the reflector, very simple, just point towards where the light's coming in and obviously bounce the light back onto the subject. So when I'm taking the shot, I'm basically tilting that reflector down, and it bounces the light back around this area, so it fills out any shadows that you might have there that are distracting, and basically gives you an overall sort of nice even light over the subject. Now I'm composing with the lens set out at its widest point, which is f6.3. I'm going to give it a little bit more depth of field. I'm going to bring it up to f11. Between the string and the fretboard, this is how shallow the depth of field is. The string's in focus, but not the fretboard. So I'm having to stop down a little bit to f11 to get the two in focus. Okay, I've got everything set up. My film's loaded. I've done a test on the lens, taken my meter reading, which I'm getting 15th of a second at f11 at ISO 400, no filters. So that's my base exposure. Now with bellows extension, because the lens is further away from the film plane, you need to give it a little bit more exposure just to cover that distance. I'm normally about a stop. I have got a bellows extension app on my phone, which gives me an idea of how much compensation to use. But I normally factor in about a stop, an extra stop, and because I'm using quite a wide aperture, and there's a lot of light getting through anyway, so we should be okay. So I'm going to start at a 15th of a second, and give it a little bit more exposure from there as well. 3 frames. Let's see how we get on. Okay, very similar setup for this ball of string. I've focused on this front edge here, and I'm ready to take my meter reading now. Again, I'm using my DSLR for the meter reading. I'm going to focus in on this, not the shaded part, not the lit part on the other side, but the part in between. It's a very neutral subject anyway. So I'm going to take my reading off here. So I'm basically filling the frame with the subject. I've set the camera at ISO 400, and now basically I just adjust my shutter speed, and again I'm getting about 15th of a second to 20th of a second at those settings. So I'll dial that into my lens, give me a start point, and again, because I've got the bellows extension, I'm going to give it a little bit more exposure as well. It's nice to get a bit creative now and then, and what better way than trying to make something out of a ball of string and a guitar. I hope you've enjoyed this one. I've had great fun doing this. Bit of a trial, not something I'm normally shooting, but yeah, I thought it'd be a nice sort of comparison of the two mediums, sort of music and photography. if you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe away. I do appreciate your subscriptions, your follows, your comments, all that sort of thing. And I hope you can join me on the next one. Thanks for watching.